good afternoon and welcome. Welcome to our November General Membership Luncheon. My name is Colin Hastings. I'm the Executive Director of the Pasco Chamber of Commerce, and thanks for your turnout today. Today's program features Chief Metzger. He's going to do a presentation on what's going on here in the city of Pasco, and I'd like to thank Tri-Cities Community Health for sponsoring today's luncheon. Sue, can I have you turn the music off? It's so loud in here, you couldn't even hear the music. It's so nice to have the little holiday background. So at this time, could you please join me in our Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great, thank you. You can have a seat. I'd like to take a moment to introduce some elected officials that have joined us here today. First, from Franklin County, the Commissioners Bob Cook and Rick Miller. Let's give them a round of applause. Franklin County Prosecutor Sean Sand. All right. We have Franklin PUD Commissioner Stu Nelson. He says he was the first one to feel it start raining today, since there's no. I can say that because I'm bald too. Don't get mad. And then we have Port of Pasco Commissioner Gene Reichman and Jim Clinworth. I'd also like to acknowledge Gene's birthday today. Happy birthday! And it's Tim Neese's too. It's a great day. It's my son's birthday as well too. His 10th birthday. I think you guys might be a little beyond 10, but just a little bit. Thank you so much. And then I'd also like to take a moment to recognize some of the Pasco Chamber Board of Directors that are here today, and as well as some of the past presidents. So I'll just go ahead and acknowledge that they're here, and we'll hold our applause at the end. I know that Delt Clark is here, and Katie Copeland, Dave Zabel, Deb Bone Harris, who's our liaison, was supposed to be here. I haven't seen her yet. Joe Roach with Campbell and Company, and Jason Hogue. I know there might be a couple that snuck in on me. And then also Rick Miller is our liaison as well, too. And then we have past presidents, Derek Brownson. I think Derek likes the ring of that, right? Past president Ryan Brault. Janice Hastings was supposed to be here. I don't know if she snuck in. Kevin Williams, and of course the godfather of the Pasco Chamber, Ed Ray. Let's give them all a round of applause. I was expecting to have a representative from AutoZone here today to get their membership plaque, and I didn't see Sherry sneak in. Wasn't sure if there's somebody that was here in her place, but if she shows up later, we can go ahead and work that into the program. A couple quick announcements too, even though we're still got a couple months left in this year, but right around the corner in 2018 are two of our largest events that the Pasco Chamber produces and sponsors, and that's our Eastern Washington Ag Expo as well as the Ag Hall of Fame. Really an awesome opportunity for the Pasco Chamber to really acknowledge how important the ag industry is to the Tri-Cities area as well as to Franklin County. The Ag Show is coming up, I think, on the 9th and 10th at Track. Happy to have some new sponsors on board this year as well, too. Lamb Weston has jumped on as our premier sponsor. Les Schwab is still continuing on as a presenting sponsor, as well as U.S. Cellular. So we're really excited with what the new show is bringing up. If you're still looking for an opportunity to be involved, there's booth space. There's still some sponsorships as well, too. We're expecting over 2,000 people to come through that expo. And then our Ag Hall of Fame is the following week, which happens to be on January 18th, and that couldn't have been. We couldn't do this without Port of Pasco's support. The Ag Hall of Fame just last week selected the recipients for the 2018 inductees. We're not releasing those names yet, but soon you'll have an opportunity to see what the selection is. It's a great class of folks, and I think as Jason Hogue put it best, as when he when he attended the Ag Hall of Fame for the first time, he said it was an event that he has been to that has the most heart in it. So if you have never been to the Ag Hall of Fame, come to it. It really is a great show and doing some good things with that. And before I hand it over to Dennis to take us through the rest of the program, I do want to take a moment to acknowledge that Nick Wagner is here today with Charter filming this today. Normally it's John Funfar with the city of Pasco, but he's on vacation, and Nick has been involved in cable companies, quite frankly, since the 80s in the Tri-Cities, and as always has stepped up and done so much for our community, and he'll be parting ways with Charter here real soon, but for all his effort and his involvement within the Tri-Cities, I'd like to take a moment and let's give Nick a round of applause for helping us out today. So with that, it's now my pleasure to introduce Dennis Giese of John L. Scott, our 2017-18 president, to take us through the rest of the program. I'll get these out of your way.
Thanks, Colin. We certainly appreciate the relationship that we have with our sponsors, and this is no exception with the Tri-Cities Community Health. And Martine Valdez is here as their spokesman, and I'd like to say a few words. Martine?
I think I'm used to the steps on the other side. That's my excuse. Thanks, Dennis. My name is Martin Valadez. I do business development and PR and enrollment and a few other things at Tri-City Community Health. And I think a lot of you already know about Tri-City Community Health, but at Tri-City Community Health, we're always growing and changing, and in particular to meet the needs of our growing and diversifying community. So we always want to come in and share what's new, and also remind people of what we have. And I know that there's always a lot of people that come, new people that come to the Tri-Cities, so also share that. So let me just, blank. Oh, I didn't put these together, so I know the content, I just didn't. So anyway, somebody who knows PowerPoint much better than I do put them together. That's why it looks so nice. So at Tri-City Community Health, we are a federally qualified health center. We're a community health center, which means that we receive some federal funding from the federal government to make sure that we provide health care to anybody in the community. We don't turn anybody away, and sort of that federal funding we use so that we can cover anybody, including the uninsured. Most community health centers like our own, they really focus on primary care, right? Primary care meaning family care, pediatrics, OBGYN, but depending on sort of the needs of the community and the relationships that we form in the area, sometimes we expand. So one of the things that, as you can see, we've expanded in a lot of areas because we have a lot of need. We have medical. We have actually probably the biggest dental program in the Tri-Cities. That's because most dental offices are fairly small. I think we have about 20 chairs in Pasco and another 10 or so in Kennewick. So we're fairly large. We have what's also called urgent care, same-day primary care, so people can be seen if they can't wait for a week or two to see their provider. They can walk in today. We're open actually Monday through Saturday, roughly 8 to 8, so they can come in every day. We also have a pharmacy, and we're here in Pasco. We're soon to have a pharmacy also in Kennewick and in Richland. And our pharmacy, actually, we get discounted medications because we're a federally qualified health center. So actually, anybody who comes to see one of our providers, they get that discount as well. We have also a fairly large behavioral health program. I think we're second only to Lourdes. And we do provide enrollment. And in fact, one of the reasons I'm here this week is because right now, as many of you know, it's open enrollment season. Open enrollment was from November 1st, and in the state of Washington it ends on January 15th, and we actually provide enrollment help to anybody. They don't have to be our patients, anybody for free that needs help navigating the healthcare exchange. We do enrollment both for Medicaid and also for the health insurance. So there's actually some of these on your table, and there's actually, if you want, some more up there. So we're here to help, again, anybody that needs that help. We have a couple of school-based health centers, one in East Pasco and one in East Kennewick. And actually, the last one that's interesting is we just added this specialty in endocrinology. And we actually partnered with 2 local endocrinologists, Dr. Wilson, who has a very, who brought in sort of his practice with us, and it's on Goethals. And then we also brought in Dr. Wanarashu, who does pediatric endocrinology, and he's in Kennewick. So that's one of our kind of specialties. And again, it's because there's a need in the community, and because those 2 doctors wanted to partner with us. And obviously, there's those are very important offerings, and we want to make sure that folks know about those. Let's see. Again, if you're looking for help, open enrollment. Again, it's free, and you don't have to be our patient to take advantage of those services. Again, it's free, and let's see. More Actually, it's January 15th. We didn't update that from last year. The open enrollment period is January 15th. This is just a little information. Again, we're a community health center. Our focus, we serve everybody, folks with insurance, without insurance, but our main, the largest segment of our patients is folks on Medicaid. About 65% of our patients are on Medicaid, and so this is just some information. Again, just like with enrollment, if somebody doesn't have insurance and they think they might qualify for Medicaid, we help them enroll, again, for free. And these are some of the requirements for that. And this is sort of an idea of what type of income you need, what sort of the threshold is to qualify for what's called Apple Health here in the state, Medicaid. And again, this is some of we need the information, sort of the documentation in order for them to qualify. And as I said at the beginning, we see everybody, for those that are not on insurance, we see them on a sliding fee. Again, we don't turn anybody away, but we want to make sure that those that sort of can afford a little bit more. So it's from $35, let's say, a copayment, and depends. So we also see folks from the mission. So obviously those folks, if they don't have income, they have a 0 copayment. But we do ask sort of for some documentation to determine what folks can pay. So anyway, please, I know that probably most of you have access to health insurance and health care, but if you know anybody, either where you work, your employees, other people that you work with, or folks in the community, and many of the, I know there's a lot of civic engagement in the Tri-Cities. A lot of folks are involved in nonprofits. So if those folks that you come into contact with don't have access to health care, send them Tri-City Community Health. And if they want to figure out whether they qualify for Medicaid or other forms of insurance, please do send them to us. Thank you.
I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce Pasco Police Chief Bob Metzger. Is that the whole bio, or? No, I'm teasing. I've got 3 pages here. Pasco Police Chief since October 2011 with a total of over 43 years police experience. Bob was a police chief for over 20 years in 4 departments in the Midwest before coming to Pasco. Other career accomplishments include patrol officer, detective, SWAT team leader, and patrol sergeant. He has a bachelor's degree in criminal justice and sociology and a master's degree in criminal justice management. In addition to this, he's attended the FBI National Academy Session 180 and Northwestern University School of Police Staff and Command. Chief Metzger is also a certified police trainer for various courses, including police management, police staffing, police ethics, and investigation. For many years, Chief Metzger has also been a college instructor in various subjects at several universities and colleges. He's also an author of numerous articles published in the Police Chief magazine, Chief Metzger and his wife Linda reside in Pasco, have 2 adult children and 6 grandchildren. Please help me welcome Police Chief Metzger.
Well, I want to thank you very much. I saw the cars out there today. I thought, is everybody out there for me? Fortunately, they weren't, so it's not going to be quite that bad. Well, it's hard to believe, but 6 years ago, I was here on this very stage talking to, I think most of you may have been there at the time, speaking about coming here as the new person. Now, 6 years later, Colin asked me to come, and the nice thing is in about 6 years, I know most of you here, and that's really good. And the rest of you that I haven't met, if you speed on the way home, I can meet you then. Just kidding. So what I want to do today is just kind of briefly go over some of the things that have happened, most of which you probably know, but some of it is maybe new to you, and then I certainly want to leave room at the end of the conversation for questions. And I'm sure with Felix here, my good friend, he'll probably got a few questions ready. He's laughing because he's already written them down. Just to recap, though, 6 years ago when I came here, I was here to replace Chief Austin, who you know had been here about 17 years. We were located in City Hall at that time. We had a total of 58 officers. Now that's significant because as you see, as we spring forward to just 6 years, what a change we've had here. We had 1 chief, 2 captains, 10 sergeants. By the way, this is part of a test. There'll be sheets of paper going out, so later on when I ask you what the services are, you'll remember. Our services at that time were patrol, investigation. We had 6 detectives. We had a K-9. We have 2. We're part of the Metro Squad, which, as most of you know, is a Tri-City squad made up of departments throughout Tri-Cities. Then we had an area resource officer. We had 2 of them. And we also had, at that time, 4 school resource officers. Now go ahead to just 6 years later, almost exactly 6 years. We now have a chief, deputy chief, 2 captains, 10 sergeants. Haven't really gained a lot up there. We took 1 of the captains. We went up to 3 captains for a while. We've just recently, thanks to council and the city manager, gone up to a deputy chief. We now have 78 officers. We've gone up that much. But our population's gone up too. When I got here, we had 58,000 people. Now we're at just over, or just not quite 73,000, right? So we have just grown. I know I talk to my officers that have been around for a long time, and they say, we got to keep driving around to figure out all the new streets. 911 can't keep up with the new streets and dispatch mapping because they're coming in so fast. We now have a new police station. And this is something that's also we thank you for. That was a public safety sales tax. I felt kind of good when I came here in October. Right off the bat, City Manager Crutchfield at the time says, by the way, we have a campaign going on for a new police station or public safety tax. You get to go out and support that. I'm going, what is it? You know, here I am from out of state. I don't know anything about how that works here. But we're very fortunate, and thanks to all of you, we did pass it. It passed pretty easily. And from that, we actually put together a new police station. One of the things we do, which I think is important, is we call it a community services building. Because one of the things that's important to us is that it is a community service. We don't want you only coming to the police department to be fingerprinted or booked or whatever. We really want it to become something that you as a community can get involved in. So I know, Felix, you use it occasionally for group meetings. We have a community room in it. The Historical Society is storing some stuff there that they need in a climate-controlled area. We have a little space for them, so we allowed them to do it on a short-term basis. So it really is more than just a police station, and we're pretty proud of that. Some of the services, we've now gone up to 8 detectives. Again, that's still pretty low considering we got 73,000 people. I know I can talk for a couple of our prosecutors that are here, our city prosecutor and county prosecutor. We give them enough cases. So we got 8 detectives now. We still have 2 canines. We have Metro. We've also joined forces now with the FBI and DEA. That's mainly for gangs and drugs. It's not for immigration. We do not do immigration. So we've partnered up with them. We've gone back up to 4 AROs. We have divided the city into 4 areas. And one of the things we're doing down in Chihuahua Park, there was that house that was down there for many years that wasn't really being used. We're going to make that a community policing station. And then we have the 3 other ones that we've had for quite a number of years. And we also, of course, through annexation, gained a couple more schools. So now we have 5 school resource officers. Every school now, except I think one that's out of town. All the rest of them are in town. So what I'd like to do is, as you know, about 2.5, 3 years ago, we had a rather major event here in the city of Pasco. There's no denying it, it happened. We had a lot of work to do. We had a lot of people at that time that were not happy with us. We had a lot of people at that time that weren't happy with me, which I understand. But we worked hard, and and the reason I'm only bringing that up now is we worked hard as a police department. We worked hard with city manager. We worked hard with city staff, and we were able to overcome. In fact, I don't even think we've overcome it. I think we've thrived, and I would certainly argue with anybody who thinks we haven't. But we've thrived as a police department. One of the things that can happen when these sort of events occur is you can either sit back as a police chief and say, woe be me, life's a bad place, or you can decide, okay, what can we learn from this and how can we improve? We took the path of wasn't easy, but we took the path of let's improve, let's work. I know Felix and I have had a lot of great discussions. Some of them we weren't too happy with each other, very honestly. But I think we've come to respect each other. I know I respect Felix a great deal, and others that I met along the way. So what started off as contention, I think ended up with a better product, a better police department. And I would certainly stand up here and defend that to any one of you who want to ask me any questions later on. So with that as sort of a background, what have we been able to do in the past 6 years? We went through state accreditation. Now, why did we do that? Because to me, it's a way to show you what we're doing as a police department and that it does meet some kind of standards. One of the questions that Felix and others would ask me, rightfully so, how do we know what you're doing is the right thing to do? Well, trust me, I've been doing this for 40 years. Well, it doesn't mean I've been doing it right for 40 years. It means I've been doing it for 40 years. What this does is it gives us accreditation, gives us credit with outside assessors coming in and saying, are you doing what you say you're doing? And are you doing it within certain standards that are set, in this case, by the state of Washington? So that was very important. It took us a while, but we did accomplish that, even during all these other things that were going on. So again, we didn't sit back and allow things to occur. We started a street crimes unit. Part of the thing that occurred when you did that public safety sales tax, in fact, the first thing we did was create a street crimes unit. One of the things, and I was talking to some of your people earlier about how does Pasco get from its historical thought of we're a high crime city. We're not. We're lower than Kennewick, lower than Richland. How do we get that way? Well, we did it with a lot of hard work, not just by the police department, but all of you too. But part of that philosophy, if you will, is we need to make sure that we understand the crime rate, that we understand what crime goes on and how we deal with it. So the first thing we did after we passed that public safety sales tax, most times I would expect when I'd ask officers, what do you want, a building? Do you want this or what that? You'd expect, well, I want a new car, I want a new building. First thing they said is, no, we want a street crimes unit. We want to be able to go out and fight crime and get to where the criminals are. Gangs, basically, is what we were dealing with, and drugs. So they determined that. Again, City Manager Crutchfield at the time, that was the first thing we did. So we took that public safety money that you gave us and turned that into the first thing was the street crimes unit. We, of course, also did a new muni court. We also added on to the jail. That wasn't us, so the jail was a county. We, of course, got into the new building that I've already talked about. We also did something that I think is unique among any police department, to my knowledge, not only state of Washington, but where I come from back in the Midwest. We actually decided that training is going to be a very important issue for us in the police department. And I don't mean training in terms of going out shooting guns or that kind of fun stuff, but training in terms of knowing how to work with all of you. So we took our schedule, our police schedule, and we put together a schedule where every 2 weeks, every officer in the department works. And those, that every other week, half the department is in training and half the department is working like they normally would. We do that so we can get 120 hours of training every year. State mandates 24. We do 120, which is far and above what any other police department that I'm aware of does. And we do it at no cost. There's no overtime. There's no fill-in slots for officers that are gone. This is all done in-house. One of the other things we did was we were able to convert an old Union Hall downtown into a police training building. And again, we've used it for a lot of other things too. We've had the debates recently for council. Were held at that building. We do a lot of training in there. A lot of our physical training's done in there. It's an old, again, it's an old Union Hall, so it can take a little bit of abuse. And we do that when we do some of our PT and some of our instruction. So we do a lot of training, a lot of work, and a lot of this was done to make sure that we're doing the best kind of police work we can. And part of that is because, again, if we look historically, Pasco had the highest crime rate in the 1980s. We now have among the lowest. We're one of the 10 safest cities in the state of Washington. But quite frankly, outside of this room, and we were just talking to our friend over here with the realtors, what do they say? Pasco's unsafe? Go to Kennewick or Richland. I'm sorry, it's not true. But how do we overcome that? Well, collectively, we do that. And in fact, there was some discussion here just before I came up to talk about maybe ways that we can do that. So we need to overcome this stigma, if you will, of why is Pasco this unsafe city. And I'm debating that all the time. I've only been here 6 years, and I feel like I own this town because when I'm out talking, I get upset when people say, well, that's a high-crime city. No, it isn't. It really isn't. And I'm glad, and I hope it stays that way. But it just shows you how long, once a city gets a reputation, how long does it take to replace that reputation? And so a lot of folks, a lot of you that have lived here all your lives or most of your lives, I know you feel that way. I know I feel it as a relatively new resident. So that's why that's important. That's why training, that's why all the stuff I did with all the people that we did was so important, was to maintain that. A lot of cities that have gone through what we did 2.5 years ago would have crumbled and said, well, that's it, we're done. We're a bad place. Go to Ferguson right now and see what's going on in that poor city. And I don't mean to knock Ferguson, okay? I don't need to knock the citizens there. That's not it. But how they reacted versus how we reacted, totally different. We were in the national news for a short period of time. We dropped out. Good. We don't want that. But again, I can't take all the credit for that. But I was one of the leaders that did that. City manager was, city council, a lot of you out there were. So it took all of us to make that difference. And we can't quit. We can't stop. So I realize that even though, okay, that's history, we're past that, it's still important that we continue. So I make it one of my goals to make sure that we continue that as a police department. We never stop. One of the things I've told Felix and others is keep checking us, making sure we're doing the right thing. If we're not, let me know. And Felix will. Trust me. I know. He's done it. And that's good. And he also knows that I'm not one to back down from what I believe and why I do what I do. I'm very passionate about what I do, and I'm very passionate about this police department in this city. Even though I've only been here 6 years, it feels like a lifetime to me. And not just because of what happened. It's because it's a great place to be. We increased our bilingual staff. Very important. We did that in a couple different ways. We are the first city that I know of in the area to have a bilingual list through civil service. So we can have people that have, and I'm not just talking Spanish bilingual. Right now, my record staff, I've got 2 bilingual Spanish, 1 bilingual Serbian, and 1 bilingual Russian. We do have a sizable group of those folks coming in also. So we want to make sure when I say bilingual, it's not just one language, it's bilingual. We also have a trilingual. I've got one officer that's Spanish and Korean. He got that from the service. We also do, again, the bilingual hiring list, which I think is very important, which is part of how we've been able to increase our bilingual staffing. Another thing we do that is important when we talk about hiring is we also have a very active Explorer group, and we have a very active Reserve Officer group. Reserve officers basically they're dressed like I am. They go through an academy that we run that's state certified, and they come out and work with us, and many of those folks want to become officers in the future. So it's sort of a training ground, and if they're successful in that, they can go back and they get credit from civil service. So when they take the test, they gain a few points, just like they do for military. We also have a very active Explorer group, and I'm really proud of these kids. They're high school students. I think all but one of them is bilingual. They're a great group of young people, and that's kind of my farm club. Kind of like a baseball team. That's my farm club. And I'm really hoping that not all of them are. The idea of explorers is through the Boy Scouts is that they are exploring careers. And is police work something they want to do? My grandson has just recently told me he wants to become a cop. I'm pretty proud of that. But he's going to explore. So he's doing it. He's in another state, obviously, but that's important. They may not want to. 90% of our kids don't, but a few of them do. In fact, one of our recent hires, Anna Ramos, was an explorer, reserve, worked in a county for a while as a corrections, and then came back to us as a police officer. That's success. That's what we want to do in the future, and that's some of the things that we're working on. We've also started a new program called Hotspotters, and I was really glad to see who one of our sponsors is today, because one of the things we found in police work is I put on many hats. And we all, when we're out there patrolling, do many things. We resolve conflicts. We are the experts at everything, supposedly, when we get to a scene. Well, one of the things we're not experts in is mental health. One of the things we're not expert in is health, period. We've done a couple things like we all carry Narcan with us now, so we can save those that are in an overdose. We've already had 2 saves already, worked with the fire department. We've worked with a lot of, but the one thing we don't know how to do is mental health. We applied, and unfortunately we're not successful, for a grant to try to embed some mental health professionals in the police department through Lords so that they could be available to us 24/7, riding on patrol, understanding what we're doing, and also training us in how to deal with that. Because that's one thing that, and again, I've been in this business a long time, this is probably the hardest thing for an officer to deal with. And that's where we need help from outside professionals that understand police work and can help us get through that. So what we do there with Hotspotters is we pick a few key people that we know are going to have a lot of police or fire interactions. We get people that call the fire department just to get a free ride to the hospital. They do, and they do it often. And you consider what that costs the city, that's a lot of money. Do they really need to go to the hospital? Probably not. But are they obligated under medical providers? Yes. So we're trying to avoid that. We have so far been very successful in getting some of these people placed in places where they can be helped. We've had a couple that we've had placed. Unfortunately, when they get out and they're no longer under supervision, they kind of go back to where they were. But we know them now. So again, now we know the people that we can get in contact with. So we meet once a month. We have the courts, we have the prosecutors, we have all kinds of people involved with us that try to help us get these people, hotspot them, that's what we call it, so we can put them someplace and not jail. We have the jail working with us. We have the sheriff and the jail commander that works with us a great deal to, again, try to get somebody help. There are people that need to be arrested, no doubt. There are also people that need to get mental health help, and that's not something we can do very well. We also do this thing called Coffee with a Cop. It's not coffee with a chief. It's coffee with a cop. And we've done it at McDonald's. We've done it at Starbucks. We've got that great new Starbucks there on Court Street. If you haven't been there, nice place. So we've done that a lot. That's been extremely successful. But that's a chance for my officers to sit there and interact with any of you that want to stop by and have a cup of coffee with them. And it's been really good because I can go out and talk to you today, and that's great and good. But you also want to know some of the, as we call it, boots on the ground, those people that are actually out doing the job. And so we've done that, very successful. Some of the other accomplishments we did, we've been doing a Citizen Police Academy for a number of years. We just revamped it. So if you've ever been through it before, I'd recommend you do it again because we totally changed it. We also do it now in Spanish. We did the only, that I'm aware of, the only one in the state of Washington, probably the Northwest, all in Spanish, all done by us. Very successful. In fact, I went and spoke to that group. They're probably the most excited group, happy group that we've ever had go through there. Just a great group of people. We also do CIT training. You've heard a lot about that. That's your mental health training. It's mandated in the state of Washington to do 8 hours. We are making it our goal to get everybody through the 80-hour or 40-hour course, which is much longer, much more detailed. But we are committed to getting our officers trained in that. So we're working on that. We're at about 80% compliant right now. And to do the 8-hour, you had to be 80% compliant. We were that before the law even came into place. So we are ready. We updated our mission, values, and vision statement. Something you should always do, I think, in any organization is look at who you are and what you're doing and why. So I hold up fact here in the Red Lion with my command staff, and we sat down and worked with a consultant and said, what do we do? And so we came up with our new value statement. Deputy police position that I just talked about was just, in fact, it's on the city manager's desk right now waiting for final approval, but the council's already approved it. He's approved the position, and so we're looking at that. 2 weeks ago, I was very pleased to be able to speak in front of about 400 other police chiefs in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, on what we did. I called it Police Chief Survival. How do you survive as a police chief when you have a use force incident like we had here? Very well attended. A lot of these things tend to be ones where about halfway through people are walking out because you got an hour and a half. And like my city manager knows, I can go on for an hour and a half pretty easily. He kids me about that all the time. I won't do it today. You guys will learn that today, too. No. See what I got to put up with? It's terrible. But anyway, the idea was, and it was partly because I've also done some AWC, that's Association of Washington Cities, and I've also done some talks in front of them. And one of this is the collaboration between city manager, city council, you, and police. Very important. That partnership is extremely important. So one of the things I was asked in an AWC conference by a gentleman from, where was he from? Tukwila, I think. Tukwila. Well, how come you're not telling other people about that? That's a good question. So we were asked by the ICP to come and present, so myself and my captain, Ken Roski, went and presented. And I basically gave them the hour and a half talk that I'm not going to give you here today about how to survive and how to work community policing in your police department. And then social media. Of course, that's become huge. How many of you here have our Facebook page? Raise your hand. Thank you. Oh, I thought, no, we got a lot of friends here. Well, at least you got our Facebook. I don't know if you're friends, but you got a Facebook page. So I want to spend just a few minutes talking about our pride and joy right now, which is our social media. We are now, I put down 42,000. We're actually up to about 43,000 followers. We are the largest social media police department in the state of Washington. But again, you don't just do it for grins and giggles. You do it for a number of reasons. One is transparency. One of the things that I remember talking about, I remember talking to Felix and others when this thing occurred a couple of years ago, was how do we know you're doing what you're doing? And I'm sitting back in my office where I got locks on the doors and you got all the security and all. I'm thinking, well, I know what I'm doing. Why don't you? And then it dawned on me that, well, we don't. We think we know. We think we get to the media. And I'm not blaming the news or anybody else, but how do you know what we're doing? So we started looking at it and go, well, probably one of the best ways is social media. Let's get it out there. Let's tell people what we're doing, the good and the bad. Let's tell them what we're doing. So again, our purpose is to use it to inform the public on police issues that impact the city. It's not all going to be good. It's not all going to be bad. A lot more good actually going on than bad. As quickly and as accurately as possible. And that's the important thing. One of the things we decided early on is we trained a group of officers to go out and do social media. How many of you recall the golf cart incident we had with the guy trying to run from us? I see a couple of hands there. That won thousands of hits. I had an officer sitting, it was right out here. He was sitting out here in the parking lot, and he sees this golf cart go by. He goes, no, what? No, I got to try to stop it. So what does this guy do? Try to run from us. I mean, in regular cars, it's tough to run from us. Golf cart, not so much. But it's things like that, okay? We didn't want to embarrass him. We blacked out. He was on his way to get some beer and cigarettes. More beer and cigarettes. So again, we're trying to do that for transparency, to let you know what's going on, but also it's just good stuff. It shows what Pasco's really like. Pasco, and this guy wasn't a bad guy. He was doing something goofy, but he wasn't a bad guy. We had the guy caught in the Goodwill box. Do you remember that, the homeless? Yeah. And he's so happy, he wants to be on our Facebook page. So we had a fire guy there and a police guy there. We said, fine, we'll put you on our Facebook page. Then we have others that say, oh, no, if you don't put me on the page. I don't want to be on there. We don't. Okay, we don't. Again, we don't want to embarrass anybody. So what do we do today? I put 42,000. That's how quickly it's changing. Kind of like the streets here in Pasco. They keep adding on. We're at 43,000. Currently largest in the state. We have one in Spanish, one in English. We get national attention. We've shown up on ABC and NBC News in New York several times. The one with the golf cart showed up, but that was, I think, our first national one. Our priority is Facebook and now Twitter. We're starting to move towards Twitter because what we're finding out is, yeah, most of us here are older, we're finding out Facebook is becoming the old person's thing now. Twitter is taking its place. So we're starting to get more active on that. Trying to keep up with these kids is tough these days. So again, how do we promote our agency? Well, again, it's about branding and marketing. It's owning the message. Here's who we are. Transparency and engagement. That's that piece, like I told you. I'm sitting in my office thinking, well, everybody knows what I do. No, they don't. What's some of the best shows that you watch on TV? For 30, 40 years, what have been the most popular shows out on TV? I already answered it. Police shows. Cops, many years. Now you got live PD, 3 hours in Spokane Valley, watching cops if you want to. Why are we not taking advantage of it? It suddenly dawned on me. Let's do it ourselves, so we did. So we train, some of these are things that we actually train our officers. Make sure posts are in line with our mission, vision, and values. One of the things, again, I go back to how important that is. If it fits in that, we post it. If it doesn't, so if it's going to hurt somebody, if I'm going to say something negative about somebody, we're non-political. We don't, again, want to offend anybody. We try to do, we've had a couple of oops in the last couple of years, not too many, though. We wanted to be informed. So we're trying to get it out. Yes, can we make them funny? Sure. I've got one guy that's a terrific writer. Kevin knows him well, Dave Allen. He went to school with him. He's just a great writer. It helps. Be mindful of our customers. Less significant arrests probably don't need names or photos. Remember, treating everyone with dignity and respect. That's part of our mission. Our mission is to treat everybody dignity and respect. We embarrass somebody, that's not dignity and respect. You're telling the story of your community. And that's really what we're doing. We'll post something on there, like when I do the deputy chief thing, we'll post a thing saying, yeah, we just promoted deputy chief. Most are going to go, okay. We get about 10 likes, and that's it. You post something on a golf cart, boom. You post something, we had a missing horse a couple years ago. Turned out it was stolen. You put a stolen horse out there, boy, millions. Millions of people. Put out a dog, millions. Put out me, 10. I mean, it's just the way it is. Make the post about them, not us. And that's where a lot of communities, a lot of police departments have failed. And we've gone out and trained that. But again, we make it about them. We try to make it humorous and funny and informative. Not necessarily in that order. Just some of the things. This is from just recently. Pasco Police Community Relations seen as an example to other agencies. That's why we were asked to speak in Philadelphia. Online and in person. That's the last report we got from DOJ, which said, you know what, you're doing everything you should. At the bottom there, it's a woman, by the way, by the name of Randy Slavic that likes to post a lot of things. She's not my friend. But she's actually gone from dislike to at least she approves. So we just kind of show that as an example. So again, we don't want to sit on our laurels. What are we looking to do next? Well, we decided state accreditation is not enough. We're going to work on national accreditation. What does that mean? A lot more standards. But now it's people from across the country that are saying, okay, are you doing things right according to national standards? There aren't too many departments that do both. We're going to be one of them. Complete the merger of emergency dispatch and 911 with CECOM. This is that gift that keeps on giving. When I first came here 6 years ago, yeah, we're going to get this done. It's been going on for 10, 15 years, somewhere in there. And thanks again to the sheriff and the county commissioners and the city council and on and on and on. Keith Johnson is here representing the county. We're finally, I think, closer than we've ever been. I think you'll see by the end of 2018. I say that with hope and prayer that we'll do it. Why is it important? Because there's a lot of calls bouncing back and forth. As we grow, a lot of your calls are going to them. A lot of their calls are coming to us. You need to have it in one place. So when it goes one area, it stays there, and you get it. For a fire, for example, if you're a minute late getting that call, if a fire call bounces to Benton County, comes over here, that's a minute. That fire's just doubled in size. Doubled in size. That's why it's important. I wish Bob were here to hear that I'm praising him. He's going to tell him, okay. Complete evaluation and possible implementation of body cameras. That has become a real interesting development, if you will. We're doing a lot of research on it. We do have the money. A local entrepreneur gave us money. But it's a lot more. There's public records. There's all kinds of things. One thing I want to be careful of is that I don't go to your house. I don't go to Colin's house on some kind of a domestic, let's say, or whatever, and all of a sudden the neighbors decide, well, I want to know what went on at his house. It's none of their business, in my view. Now, if you want to argue with me, again, I'll do it. But that's just a small example. So we want to make sure that it's in the best interest of getting out the right information, and that we don't, again, just like social media, we don't embarrass anybody or anything else. So there's a lot to it. I just sent officers to a conference on this, and digital photography is much different than I thought it was. And so we've got to look at all that, and then we're going to sit down with the city manager and see what we're going to do with that. Continue efforts to improve and update training and exceed state and national standards. That's a goal that we're going to have for as long as I'm here. Training, training, training. Can't do enough of it. I sound like the fire department now, but you can't do enough of it. We want to continue it, and it's very important that we do it. So with that, that's everything I had to say, and now I want to leave, I got time for some questions. Felix?
Well, with your indulgence, I call him to get up on the stage and be right next to this great man and shake his hand for a job well done. Bob and I have a history, and we weren't always on the best of terms. Following the unfortunate shooting of the 20 Sobrano, February of 2015, there were a lot of issues. We did not think that Antonio was treated with dignity and respect. And by the way, shortly thereafter, we got hundreds of people who came to us and said, I too was mistreated. It's because I'm a person of color or a social, cultural community that is not part of me. So we had a lot of misunderstanding. We began a process of dialogue. We weren't going to be first. We were not going to throw bricks through windows and riot and this sort of thing. And we began a process of dialogue. Bob and I went back to New York in April of 2015, April or May, and didn't talk to each other. All the way back there to Pasco Red Lion, come back, no contact, rather strange. Since then, we through the active intervention of the American Civil Liberties Union, other community organizations, the Justice Department, U.S., we came through with dialogue to respect each other and to bring about real change. And I take my hats off to you, Bob, and to the city. I want to also include Dave Zabel in there because I know he played a role in all this. So now we have a community police force that we can truly proud of. I have, my professional life, helped stand up 3 police organizations. One in El Salvador in the mid-'80s, one in Panama when we took the Panamanian government down in December of 1989. Was the guy who headed the project to set up a new police force in Panama for the U.S. government. And then in Bosnia from 1995 to 97. So, I mean, I know a little bit about policing, but what we have in Pasco is a model. And it's a model because of people like you. And I would just end with on the training because I'm a former trainer myself and I respect training a lot. My question would be, you've done a lot of training, you've got a lot of hours, you've got the right subjects. If you had to expand or enhance training, in what particular area would you say that is?
It's a great question. We've done a lot in the past year. I think most of it would be on the fair and impartial policing would probably be the place I'd do it on most. A lot of people say, oh, you'll do more defensive driving or whatever. No. It'll be more along the policing lines, making sure that we're up to date. One of the things we do nowadays, by the way, for any kind of event that we're going to have is the first thing we do is sit down and look at the First Amendment. Why do you look at the First Amendment? Because we want freedom of speech. We want to go along with that. So we make sure all the officers are aware. Part of why we did so well, I think, with our demonstrations was we understood that. And so we don't want anybody, we want you to exercise your freedom, and we want to learn how to do that in the right way. So I think that's something we spend a lot of time on, and I thank you very much for your comments and also your question. Any other questions? Yes?
So can you address the transient and homeless population, since you already addressed the mental illness? That was actually one of my big questions. Address the transient homeless population. I'm a walker. I walk all the time all around here. And I've observed a lot, quite a bit of the population. Well, I mean, there's a lot of transients around the areas that I do walk in. It's a very concerning thing. You hear them talking to themselves. Some of them have been dangerous. Some of them are not dangerous. How do you handle it in the community and to prevent the potential danger to our citizens as well?
Great question. And I was in Philadelphia again a couple weeks ago, and if you really want to see a homeless population, go there. It is really very unfortunate for Philadelphia. But to answer it around here, one of the things that we're waiting on is a grant that we put in for community policing officers, additional officers, just for the homeless population, because we do realize we have a lot of them there. I've got 39 square miles with 5 officers on at a time to patrol that area. So what I usually do is say, we need to hear from you, because I get a lot of people that I meet from downtown, let's say. We do have a downtown police station down there. We're also moving it to closer to the middle of downtown where they tend to hang out. Once I get more information on that, I don't have enough right now to say much more about it at this point. But we know it's there. It takes a lot of resources to make sure we get there, but it also takes you as a citizen to call us. I've had business owners that'll say, what about this guy yesterday? Or they'll take a picture of somebody and they'll send it to my officer that's assigned downtown. Well, if it's his day off, he's not going to get it. So I say, call 911. Let us know what's going on. We're starting to get more calls on that. So again, it's more you telling us what to do, us then going, seeing what we can do. But then bottom line is they've got rights like the rest of us. So it's really pretty difficult. 40 years ago, I could take them to a mental health facility, lock them up. If they could, not take care of themselves, they could be treated. We don't have that anymore. So a lot of times, unless they're a danger, and a lot of them aren't, they're mumbling. I met the president down there 3 times. Looks 3 different ways, but he was a president. Yeah. In fact, I was down there with a group of people showing him downtown one time, and he came up and introduced himself. He looked kind of like Lincoln, kind of tall with a beard. But I thought he was gone, but I guess not. But so it is tough. So we're trying to balance the rights. We're trying to find them housing. Housing is a huge issue as to where they go. It's not an easy thing to do. But again, what can a police department do? We're basically enforcers. So we can't really get too much involved into the social media or in the social part of that, but we'll certainly help anybody that can and work in any way we can. Thank you very much for that. Any other questions?
One last question.
Go ahead. Something about the airport.
The airport.
Okay.
First, I want to thank you. Many of you guys don't know, but the Port of Pasco has its own police department. We have a great working relationship with the city of Pasco, and they assist when we need it. First responders there for backup for our guys, so we really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, the taxi cab situation at the airport, it seems like we don't have the cabs that can keep up with the demand for passengers at the airport. Can you just give us an update on the Uber situation or where you see it going in Pasco?
Sure. In fact, I was surprised somebody else hadn't asked that, so I appreciate it. I'm going to make this kind of short because there's a lot of information on this. But first off, we always hear about the Uber situation. It's not Uber, it's TNC, Transportation Network Company. Uber happens to be the big dog in the field right now, and Lyft, but there's several others coming in. I'll just leave you very quickly, and I'll be talking. If you want to see what's going on, come to council on the 27th. I think we're going to talk about it. I've got an agenda report. I've got a lot of information. Basically, my concern is, as a public safety official, if you tell me you want a police background check includes fingerprints. Fingerprints are a very important part of a police background check. If you want to learn something about a person's background, you need to. There's no way you can do that. One of the fastest growing crimes right now is cybercrime. That is anybody assuming anybody's identity. Have any of you ever been the victim of a cybercrime? Got a few. I have myself. I was not since I've been here, but another place, somebody got my credit card number and started using my credit card. So they canceled it, and I was good. But cybercrime right now, fastest growing crime in the country. If you want to think that you're going with a taxi, you've got a police background. They've done a fingerprint. They're set to go. Uber, for reasons of, I could guess, but I won't get into it, doesn't want to do fingerprints. Something to do with employment law. They want to avoid that. My only concern is, when I was asked by council to look into this, is can we do a background? So if somebody wants to start Bob Metzger's Transportation Network cab or company, do you want to make sure that I'm really Bob Metzger? Do you want to make sure that the people that are driving for you are really who they say they are? 95% of them are. But I could show you lists, and I'll have them for council, so if you want to see them then, of places where that's not true. They only go back 7 years. They don't know who they are. In fact, when they do the background, they never see you. They see a picture of you. They see a lot of things on the internet. There was an ad many years ago as a commercial for an online insurance company. Some of you may recall this young lady, very nice looking, comes up, and there's this scaggy looking guy, kind of look like me. And, well, who are you? I'm a French model. And she said, how do you know? I saw it on the internet. And so he looks at her and goes, oui? And that's kind of it. That's my concern, is you can be anybody you want on the internet. You can't be anybody you want when you do these. So my concern is with that. If they want to do like what Maryland's doing now, and Maryland, by the way, just did a big study, and what they did is they took it out of the police hands and took it in, and the state's doing it, which I think is going to happen here too, because I'm going up against a $60 billion business, and I'm just little old me. And so they're going to do it without fingerprints. And so the state took it over, and I'm fine with that. They did a more extensive background check without fingerprints, and found 15% of the drivers, they unlicensed them. That's without fingerprints. I can't imagine what it'd be like if they did it with fingerprints. I've also got examples of times where, in fact, Uber drivers, had they been checked, because they only go back 7 years. So there was a guy in San Francisco, had been in prison for 20 years for murder. Well, guess what? For 7 years, he was fine. He gets out, becomes an Uber driver. And unfortunately, he didn't commit a murder, but he did rape one of his passengers. So now, is that, like I've been told before by people, that's like lightning striking? That's true. But if it's a police background check, I'm supposed to sign off, as I do with every taxi driver. I sign off and say, yes, you passed the background. They only do it once. I've talked to many drivers. They don't mind. Most of them are teachers, work in banks, work at other places where they have to get fingerprints taken. They don't mind. Go back to Uber. Why doesn't Uber do it? Uber's very quiet on this. They don't say anything, so I'm the bad guy. And I apologize. But that's one of those things from a public safety standpoint. If you want me to say you've passed a police background check, do it. If you want to say I've passed an Uber background check or a Lyft background check or a TNC background check, okay, but understand it's not a police background check. That's probably as succinctly as I can get without becoming an hour and a half. Does that answer the question? Thank you.